Yeah. So, Cass is going to come and talk to everyone about photography and telling the story with the photos you take. Things like that. So.
I'm coming.
Good.
Right. Do you want to play the laptop to me, or if I can, that would
Yeah.
be useful. It's going to be a bit. Otherwise, I can just.
It's just you've got HDMI on there.
No, I do not. I just have
We're
USB.
going to get the adapter.
Oh, okay. That's okay. If you won't take those until. Right. Beautiful. Hi, I'm Cass. I shoot under the company name In-House Image. I've been a photographer and camera for 20 years now. I started out as a real estate photographer, and that's kind of my main jam. And then I've expanded into sort of a bit more architectural building type stuff. My dad was an architect, so I feel like there's a bit of a tie in there as to the love of these beautiful creations that get built and then develop personality and become something extra special. So I think what we want to show is that every building is different. It doesn't matter. I mean, yes, you can build them all differently and people move into them and then they create their own space out of that. So it's nice to be able to show the creative details that go into making this house a home in that particular sense. So you build these beautiful creations, and what you want to be able to do is showcase them at their best. So how many of you have entered in before? Is this like a brand new?
No, I think we've got
No, so you've all submitted stuff
Martha,
previously?
you haven't, have you? No. So yeah.
Yeah, cool.
That's
Okay, so the majority of you are familiar with the process.
So we do have some commercial builders, we have some civil contractors, a supplier, and resi. So
Cool.
we've got
Okay,
a
so we've got the full gamut of awards entries. Yeah. That's really exciting. Awesome. Okay, cool. So I do a mix of predominantly residential, but also a little bit of commercial stuff. The one overarching thing that will help you in all ways and areas of photography is making sure that your work is as close to complete as possible and clean. This is be all and end all, the hill I will die on. The thing that is going to make the biggest difference to the photographs that you get at the end is that the property needs to be as clean and tidy as possible. I'll show you some examples in a little bit of one particular property. At what point the awards are kind of popping up and whether it's ready to go or whether this is going to be something you want to consider well in advance, like you know this is something you're going to want to submit. Cleanliness is definitely going to make the biggest difference, especially if you've got reflective surfaces. That is the big killer. Photoshop is an amazing tool, and especially now, like, while I am deeply torn about the effects of AI and what it's doing to our lives, Photoshop has made huge strides in what we as photographers can do with it, rather than outsourcing to professionals who then charge extra on top of what we're able to do. So in that sense, it's definitely made our lives easier, but in some ways it's still learning and it's still not perfect. So I could ask it to remove a particular item in a photograph and it will give me 3 options and it will take a punt at what should be there. Most of the time, it's okay if it's relatively simple, but if it's complicated, for example, this time of year, everyone's got Christmas trees in their outfits, don't they? And we don't want those photos to date once we get to January. The computer has no idea what to do with those or how to replace them. So get it right in camera. And I think that was kind of mentioned before. Like, what you want to do is make sure that what you're presenting is as much of reality as possible, because it will then allow a faster turnaround from our end and also ensure that your photographs look the best that they can possibly be without any additional tweaking, which may or may not knock you out for whatever reason. Not that that's something I've ever done, promise.
How would you work it for like a thin site where, how do we make that look sexy and great?
Yeah, they're always sexy. I think that's as an aside to that, that might be an area where you would be very specific about what areas you wanted to showcase. because a civil site, like my knowledge is a little bit limited here, but we're talking big, massive developments, right? Or
Not all. Could be an infill in a city.
yeah, okay,
Yeah.
Yep.
Could be an intersection.
yes, okay, right, yeah,
I think to elaborate on from Karen, like it's good to see the start and then the polish road. to
okay,
finish.
cool. So that
Yeah,
would be a
and for
completely
me-
different process where you actually have a timeline and images that you needed.
Yeah, generally in the civil game during the project, you might be, I would say, 5 metres underground tunneling something. That's something that's innovative, or you want to showcase that. So
Yes.
You're not looking at a finished product,
No,
because a lot of our civil stuff is buried under the ground anyway. So yeah, it's you're generally showcasing the jobs that are an intersection or a beautification of an existing road where there's some landscaping.
Yep.
Trees or landscaping always a winner on a civil site. So yeah, so
makes
it's the
sense.
finished product. And it's the same analogy, just making sure it's clean, like you say.
that's it.
I think
And that
it's-
kind of also leads into one of my next points, which is that weather is another factor you want to consider, because you'll find too that you might have a planned timeline, but 9 times out of 10, it will go slightly astray. There will be something that happens, it will rain or something will go wrong. Contractors won't be able to finish a particular bit. So in that case, I liaise with your photographer, let them know your ideal timeline, and then if you can book them enough in advance, then they've got the flexibility to kind of shift and say, well, yeah, if it's not going to happen, then we'll bump it to next week or whatever. But communication is key, because there will be times of year where things get busy and you get jammed solid and you don't have that flexibility. So if you know in advance that that's something that may be a problem, it's always good to kind of word them up and say, right, we need a plan A and a plan B for if it rains, because if it's something like that, you're not going to want photos of it being wet and sludgy. And same with gardens and other developments, you don't want the mud and everything sort of, and the gloominess bringing it down. Sun is not crucial, but it does make a big difference in terms of the emotive quality of images. We can still get beautiful photos when it's overcast, but certainly not when it's bucketing down rain. That's always a massive hurdle. I was going to make a point about landscaping, but it's not a crucial factor. It's more just that it would be ideal if you've got something that has these beautiful windows, or you want to show something that involves windows. It's always best to make sure what you can see out of those windows is nice and tight. The trick with photography is that there are loads of different angles you could shoot of a particular property, but some are better than others. And you want to be able to give your photographer the flexibility to be able to say, you want to showcase are available to be shot without having to worry about tweaking slightly or angling it differently, because then you'll get the best possible images that you can, and again, make your submission the best possible that it can be. Again, on communication, if there's any features or special things that you've included or incorporated, it's always good to let the photographer know so that they can make a point to focus on that and create the sorts of images that you need. I didn't realise that there was a limit to the amount of images that you could submit, so that was a new learning curve.
It's more a file perspective. You know, the platform only allows us to put so much content per entry.
Yes.
So, you know, the photos can come through, because I know I've seen one photo this year that was 14 gigabytes.
Oh,
Yeah, it was a panoramic of a
Oh.
civil, and if I looked at it in detail, it was probably about 7 photos stitched together. But they hadn't compressed it down. They'd just done the
makes
next shot.
yep. Yes. Okay. So
We don't have to do that.
No.
yeah, I think that one's on our those photographers to make sure your files are the right size to submit. Yes. So yes, if you've got a limit of 15 images, then you want to make sure that those 15 images are bang on all the way through and look incredible. So yeah, if there's something you're showcasing or entering for a specific purpose, let us know so that we can make sure that that is included in the set of images that we deliver. Furniture is not necessary. I've worked with different builders. Some like to have their properties vacant. Some will stage them and go out and buy absolutely everything they need to make them. But this is also with the purpose of then on selling them. So I don't think properties need furniture or furnishings or any of that virtual stuff. I think you can showcase a property as it stands and looking beautiful without adding in any extra frills or anything like that. Yeah, I think that's kind of all of my advice. Does anyone have any questions, queries, thoughts? Nope.
So when we ask for a quote and go, we only need 15 photos,
Yes.
make it the best.
Yes, yeah, that's it. I generally operate on deliver all the things that look good.
Yeah.
Because I can make a choice as a photographer,
Yeah, we go, no.
but I
that's-
don't. Yeah, that's
exactly.
it. So
Yeah.
yeah, you can only need 15, but it's always better to get more so that then you've got the flexibility to choose.
And also from a tool perspective, you said there may be instances of, you're digging, tunneling underground to do a particular item. Might be hard to get a photo of that actually being happened, but maybe there's a way of working with the photographer to go, okay, let's get a slightly more creative photo of the team with the machine on the surface before it's being used or something like that. So you can then use that to tell the story of, we did this technical thing and here's the machine and the team that did it. Because that helps tell a story as well.
That's it. Yeah, and also as a collaborative thing too, like you're obviously not working alone, you're working with other vendors and suppliers. So if that's a consideration, then by all means go dive into it together and offer them the opportunity to have some marketing images as well. And then you're not limited to just those. You can use them for various other purposes as well.